As you all know, because you're here, we're here to hear from a volunteer group of citizen scientists and monitors, Waadookawaad Amikwag, that since the end of Line 3 construction last fall has been actively monitoring the pipeline corridor. The route was built through northern so-called Minnesota, through Anishinaabe treaty land, crossing numerous bodies of water and wild rice beds. And that construction process has caused a significant impact to land and water, much, much more than the state has been reporting. The company that built it, Enbridge, has been reporting. So the group that has been doing that really careful monitoring work is going to share out some of their findings with you all today. So here's an overview of what we'll be talking about today. We'll have an opening from Victoria. All of our speakers today, aside from myself, are volunteers with Waadookawaad. And I should introduce myself. I'm realizing my name is Haze. I use she, they pronouns. I'm here today on behalf of the North Star chapter of the Sierra Club, our local Sierra Club chapter. This Beyond Oil team is partnering with Waadookawaad to put this event on. I've been an organizer in Minnesota for many years and worked on the Line 3 pipeline fight. So that's me. Our program today will start with an opening and some grounding from Victoria, and then we will transition to Jeff, who's another volunteer with the team, talking about some of the background of this project, how it came to be, and why this work is so crucial. We'll have a video from another volunteer from the group, Jamie, speaking about the promise of restoration that the state claims is ongoing and where we're seeing that fall short, some of the context on Waadookawaad's work. Another video from a volunteer, Jackie, out in the field, who has done a lot of scouting and monitoring of the pipeline corridor. And then two volunteers from Waadookawaad, Ron Turney and Laura Triplett, will talk about a few of the sites where we've seen some of the significant damage. There are dozens of places along the pipeline corridor where we're seeing damage to water and to land. They'll be focusing on a few at LaSalle Creek, Walker Brook, and Moose Lake. Some footage and video of what's happening there, and then some of the geology of what this means for the water, how the ecosystem is being impacted. Jeff will talk again a little bit about the barriers to taking action, the advocacy work that Waadookawaad Amikwag have done so far. And Ron will conclude by talking about the implications of what we've seen happen on Line 3 in Minnesota for other pipeline projects, including the Line 5 pipeline, proposed reroute and construction of that project through Wisconsin and Michigan. So Ron will be talking about what we've seen in Minnesota and why that leads us to believe that these projects should not be allowed to continue in other places. And a reminder that this evening we'll be having Q&A with the Waadookawaad Amikwag folks. Today's participation will be just listening and presenting. This evening we'll have a longer forum for question and answer with these volunteers talking about their experiences. So hold on to your questions from today. And if you're available to join us this evening, please do. Both events are being live streamed on Waadookawaad Amikwag's YouTube channel, so you can find these videos there after the fact. With that, I will turn it over to Victoria to really set the stage for the conversation we're going to have today. So I will turn it over to you, Victoria.
Bonjour and dinaway amagana duk jawani mishig daga bangia to go and nenata national bin Victoria McMillen Indigenous cause jaganash among Migizikwen Indigenous cause Jaboy among Indigig Kenemago and Moye yes Migizin Indudame Indigo Benesi Anishinaabe Equi Indal Waba Iganing and Dunjba Nagachu Nangish go Naganing and Dago Widukawishnum Javanimshig in Waywin Nungum Migwich Bizindawig. I'm Victoria McMillen. I'm a first descendant to the Fond du Lac band of Lake Superior Chippewa. I descend from all the treaties in the north that Anishinaabe have signed. I have family from Bad River, Red Cliff, Sault Ste. Marie, and others. Bands that way. As Anishinaabe, my duties are to stand for my people and my family and my clan, and to carry out those duties as best that I can for the next 7 generations, to ensure that our teachings and that the land and that our rights are ensured for the next 7 generations. At Waadookawaad Amikwag, we work hard to respect each other and to teach each other as much as we can, to respect the land and to be able to speak to the community in a way that they can hear and understand what is going on. We understand the various issues surrounding consultation and how it is hard for many people to get the consultation they need to understand what is happening with the pipeline. And so they asked me to do a prayer this morning, as whenever you're trying to do anything meaningful, that's how we start things. And so that was done this morning. And now we're going to move forward in a good way with an open mind. There's a lot of volunteer work going into this, just so that we can show the public in a simple way what is going on that is not being reported. Enbridge is a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar company probably, and they have the means to inform, and they have the means to do these things for us as community members. And we don't feel that that is happening. So we are doing the work to try to make sure that everyone is informed. So with that, Miigwech Bizendaliig, I hope we move forward with open minds and open hearts. Miigwech.
Thank you, Victoria. We'll turn it over to Jeff now to speak a little bit on the context of how this group came to be, the work that they've already done, to start us off with some of that history of the regulatory process that brought us to this point, some of his own personal journey. So I will turn it over to Jeff.
I'm Jeff Broberg. I'm a licensed professional geologist, and I've been interested in the science and culture of water for a long time. I've come to this line 3 over the last year, and let's have the next slide. I've learned some important lessons. As I was starting this, really working on the Clearbrook aquifer breach, I wanted to consult with some native elders, and I had a really profound lesson on the origin story and how important water was to the Anishinaabe. And an important thing, the elder asked me, do you like the sound of water? And of course I do. And he made the point, he said, you know, we're all connected through that. These are songs and prayers, and everything hears it. The rocks, the animals, we all hear it the same. And it's something that connects us all. So that's how it started. And I thought back to my mother. My mom was born in Danbury, Wisconsin, near the Fond du Lac, and we had a lot of important Native friends, and we were taught something way back. Next slide. That water was the first medicine. Whenever I was a kid and was sick, my grandmother first gave me water. And it's indicative of that connection that we have here. So next slide. Today's purpose gets complicated, and we want to unravel that complication. We have construction damages that aren't apparent. They're hidden from public view in remote places. We're going to show you new looks at things that people have not seen yet outside of our group. And we want to show you the power of a partnership and the power of citizen science and people working in a common goal for advocacy to protect our water and seek that accountability. Let's have the next slide. This first started with water protectors and people going out on the site during the construction, like on the left, and watching the site, drone videos and actual on the ground holding space and looking at this and finding these large spots where the drilling mud was coming up to the surface on the right-hand side. Many months after the construction had been removed, we're still seeing upwelling mud in these areas, and that was our first concern. But it brought up an opportunity to do some high-tech science, things that I was familiar with, remote sensing, infrared photography. And it's an important tool because it measures the temperature of the ground. You can see the energy of the water. The temperature always comes out at 45 degrees from the ground. And then if the surrounding ground's frozen, you get a profile. If the surrounding is warm in the summer, you get a profile. And partners agreed to pay over $50,000 to fly the entire site, one into the other, from 3,000 feet, a swath a half a mile wide, so that we could see the natural conditions and the disturbance of the pipeline. Next slide. And what we discovered during this, it took a while to evaluate all of this data. It was over 3 terabytes of data. Don't try this at home. We found 45 sites where we had emerging groundwater right on the pipeline. And yet only 3 of them were really being discussed. Let's have the next slide. Here's an image from a high view of what this looks like. The red spots in the upper left here are the aquifer breach and the water that they're disturbing from that aquifer breach at Clearbrook. And we can see the natural occurrences, the hot water upwelling in Deep Lake. So we're learning science about the area and what the damage is on the pipeline. So the thermal imaging is the right tool at the right time that allows us to see that energy of the earth. And we were able to use that to target our investigations. The next slide, please. In Waadookawaad Amikwag was formed, and this group of dedicated people said, let's get trained in the science and the collection, and let's go out to the site with our drones, and wherever it's accessible and we're not trespassing, let's find these sites. And we gave them GIS coordinates. And Jackie and Dawn and so many of the others went right out to those spots and saw what we could see from remote sensing, and could document this and collect, make field notes and make observations of things like upwelling sinkholes in the middle of areas that are right on top of the pipeline. The next slide. We formed to witness this and to document the damage and discover the permanent damage on these 45 sites that cross all the way across Minnesota. You think of what this has done. It's a curtain of excavation and filling across the entire headwaters of the Laurentian Divide. The Red River, the north, the Mississippi, the St. Louis is all affected here. Next slide. And what we found is there's 3 types of damage that have occurred. There's deep excavations like had happened at Clearbrook. There were sheet pile installations where they piled those steel sheets down 30 feet that penetrated artesian aquifers that burst the water to the surface, and frac-outs. The next slide. And what we've done is put together partnerships. I looked back on my email today and saw that my first communication was September 28th, a year ago. In a year, Waadookawaad has put together a group of people focused on documenting what was not supposed to happen, was promised not to happen, frac-outs, low risks, permanent damage was not supposed to exist. This is a story of dedication while we wonder why the state isn't doing the work. Thank you, Haze.